Why do you have
Dude,
a light bulb just loose on your couch?
Mike, I went to film school, Mike. That's to get good depth of lighting. Even lighting's back there. Okay, see that?
Is that just a show couch? It's not for sitting. It's just
Yeah, no,
sitting couch.
it's,
Ooh, my light bulb's sitting there. Sorry.
it's a
Sorry, you can't sit.
display.
Cushion's
purposes.
taken.
Display.
Seat's
You know what I
taken.
do? Seat's taken. You know what I do on my couch? You know what I do on my couch? I watch Hard Knocks. Okay. God, what a transition, huh?
Boy.
That was good. Nick, you were
Good
the
thing you
king of
answered that one
trannies.
really quickly. You didn't let it
Okay.
hang.
God, that was a good transition. Hard Knocks, big news. All right, guys. The in-season Hard Knocks. This is cool. First time ever doing a entire division on Hard Knocks. And so they're following the AFC North. The first episode dropped last night on HBO, or okay, sorry, Max. We're calling it Max now. HBO. This is just like Scott, rotating through different brandings every other week. Right now it's Max. This was cool. First episode. Scott, did you get a chance to check it out?
Oh yeah, man. It's the AFC North. I have to check it out. This is the first like 3 minutes, which I think was the promo that dropped early yesterday, at least here in the States. Dude, the first 3 minutes captured so much of what's beautiful about this division. And it's crazy that it's taken Hard Knocks this long to highlight the entire division. Like I feel like this would have been the original way to go about the entire series, because then you're just spreading out the potential for having like big hits, great one-liners from different organizations.
Yeah, dude, I think that opening that you were just talking about was awesome. Where it talked about how like there's no other division in the NFL that is as close to each other, both geographically, physically, and also culturally. I mean, there's just really similar cultures with all of these cities that we've mentioned here on the show. And I think that plays into the toughness of these teams, and also just these rivalries are so heated. Like anything can happen in the AFC North. And we saw it the other week when your boys, the Browns, came through on the big win in the snow game. And so this was cool because like with Hard Knocks, it's always awesome to get a glimpse in it, but it's just like year after year, it's just training camp, and it's always all right. We're following guys that are trying to make the roster, and here I feel like we're getting stars. Like in this one, we're following Joe Burrow a little bit. We're getting Jamar Chase. We're getting Mike Tomlin. So it's cool to be like actually in season, and then bouncing back and forth between the organizations and kind of seeing the juxtaposition of how different coaches interact with their teams. That's really cool.
Oh yeah.
Any of the coaches jump out to you? Is especially like motivating?
I hate to say this, but everybody, okay, there's a hierarchy of like who really fits the division in terms of who the coaches are, right? So like Harbaugh and Tomlin are on a different level. And even those two are just like, Tomlin personifies what the AFC North is. And that's painful for me to say, but dude, getting a behind the curtain sneak peek into what goes on in his conversations with his team and how he approaches things. It's like, it's very clear that like this guy isn't putting up a front. This dude is just real and really like that. And he's just grit and grind. And I absolutely love it. Him eating Fritos, kicking his feet up, watching film. Like, dude. I love getting to see that.
Hey, not just Fritos, but chili cheese Fritos. The best kind of Fritos. Okay.
Oh yeah. And to finish
Yep.
this thought, like them highlighting Jamar Chase and Minka Fitzpatrick and how they go at each other on the field and how they actually hate each other, and just capturing that moment where he's flipping him the bird. Like, dude, that is perfect for this. And just the rivalry, all four teams hate one another. And I don't think that's the same across the board in the NFL. There's no like rivalry that's matched.
No, dude, not at all. I think I asked you a couple of weeks ago what other division in the NFL has this type of intensity, because like I'm thinking out to our teams on the West Coast, like NFC West. It's like, okay, yeah, 49ers, Rams, Arizona Cardinals, Seahawks. It's like doesn't feel that intense. Also, just the style and the cultures of these teams in these cities, they just don't have that grittiness. It's, Sean McVay offense, Kyle Shanahan offense, very kind of, it's finesse. It's really smart. It's highbrow. It's just totally different, both culturally, highbrow. Okay. You like that, Gail? Okay. Highbrow.
The best part about this is you're just skirting the word you really want to use, which is soft. That's
soft.
That's what you want to say.
I didn't say that, Scott. Okay. Stop. Scott's you're trying to categorize us West Coasters as soft. Is this what you're trying to do? What?
No. I just the style of play is a little bit softer, which isn't a bad thing because sometimes softness is what you need. I like a soft pillow. Like that helps me sleep at night. And I perform better.
Don't try and patronize us. Oh, sometimes soft
I had to give it back. You were
soft football is good. All right. Okay, Ryan Day, Ohio State. All right. No, you're. We got to talk about that in a little bit. Check this out. I wanted to throw this up because I was very impressed. Wait, hold on, moment. Facilities. So I was actually really impressed. Like, dude, have you ever seen the Ravens facilities? They look like an Ivy League campus. Like,
yeah,
what?
I was going to comment on that too. There's such a stark difference between the Browns and the Ravens. It's like when Art Modell moved the team from Cleveland to Baltimore back in the mid 90s.
Yeah,
it's like he took everything great about what was old time Cleveland and the tradition and everything and placed it into Baltimore. And then we just got like this cinder block building that we have now compared to like what they have. It's just like beautiful.
Eastern European, Eastern Bloc style.
Eastern Bloc style, yeah.
It's called,
to get the hope out of the people's minds.
The correct term is Soviet brutalism, Mike, and it's one of the top 5 architectures out here. Your favorite, huh?
Yeah. I think also it's also called demoralization.
Dude, yeah, it
Keep
is.
the masses at bay.
Beautiful architecture, and don't get me started on a tangent about beautiful architecture because that actually has a huge effect on people and the spirit of people in an organization. It is one of my favorite things about being here in Europe is like the architecture in these buildings that have hundreds of years of history. You feel that as a human being, and that can translate to the football team.
Yeah.
Okay, here's one point. It can also make you complacent. Look at the Italians. They have the best architecture, the best history. They look around. This is pretty good. I don't need to work hard. We're already there. What more do I want?
Yeah, exactly. They see it and they're like, "Hey, we already produced this. What more does the world want? They need to produce for us." That's what they're doing now.
Italy had one good renaissance, and they've just been sitting on that for just centuries. Like, I mean, you got a couple good companies. You got Ferrari, you got Lamborghini, and a couple pasta companies, but it's been a while. Okay, you're right, Mike. And you know what? That's not just Italy. That's Europe as a whole. It's complacent continent. It is like people in America, they just like to talk about Europe as just like it's a museum, right? They're not really making anything new. They've got all the old stuff that you can go and look at. All jokes aside, I do think that kind of stuff has a effect on team culture, head coach, your facilities, like that all plays into it. Think about the Cincinnati Bengals, who are notorious for not having good facilities, being very cheap, not having that indoor practice facility like we talked about last week. That leaks into their culture.
Yeah.
So
I think there's something to that too. So like you talk about culture and everything, but there's clearly a sense of tradition because I think they said it's Harbaugh's 17th year at Baltimore's at Baltimore, and then Tomlin's like 20th, 21st maybe. So like there's a sense of tradition, and then when that's extrapolated out and personified or manifested in like the buildings, like you actually get that full-time sense that you're joining an organization, a full team, a culture, as opposed to just like, oh, I'm a part of a roster. Like you're part of something far greater and far bigger.
Yeah, absolutely. I was impressed with that. You know what also really impressed me is just, this is not really on a sports tangent, but more on a filmmaker's tangent of how they were able to produce this episode in such a quick turnaround. Because you look at this, like they even referenced, this episode came out yesterday. They referenced at the end of the episode and showed a little bit of footage of the Browns-Broncos Monday night game that was 24 hours before. So the turnaround, just from a production point of view, is absolutely insane. Dude, this is a kind of a great representation of the NFL as a whole, because that's world class in terms of documentary filmmaking and having the logistics and ability to turn something around this quickly.
Yeah, no, I've heard just rumors that they're essentially editing the final episode almost up until like 30 minutes before publication. So like they're doing all of these massive tweaks, getting all of the footage and building the car while they're in the race. It's nuts. And they're doing it so well. Like talk about Italian mechanic genius. Like they're doing the exact same thing just with film and Hard Knocks every single week and every single episode.
Italian mechanic genius. That's us, Mike, with our Italian.
Amazing. Horrible things don't slip through the cracks as they're trying to get these things out. Just incriminating stuff.
Well, did you see there was one of the offensive or defensive linemen from the Steelers? Like, there was a clip going around of him seeing Tomlin getting the mic pulled off of him. Like at the end of the game, he goes, "Oh shit, you were mic'd up? You were fed this whole time?" It was like these guys are probably saying some stuff.
I know the
that they
things
don't
that are
wanna
said
get
at
out.
practice when like
Oh,
those mics could ruin a lot of people's lives. Like there has to be some sort of NDA signed by the editors or something.
oh yeah. Behind the scenes, it's just like a handshake with the editors and NFL films and everything.
Yeah.
It's just like, hey, let's not bury the brand of what is the NFL by releasing any of this BTS stuff. Like
It's the same thing with Xbox Live Chat. Okay, what's said on Xbox Live Chat is the same as what's said during practice or a game. It's a sanctuary.
It is a sanctuary. It's a safe space, if you will.
So what's your gamer tag, Mikey? We need to get into the know on this.
I don't know.
Fury
Don't tell him, Mike.
05.
Keep the Alfieri
Uh-oh.
family reputation protected. Don't tell him.
And he just
All right.
uses your last name in his gamer tag. There's no anonymity there.
No, he doesn't. I know his gamer tag. We'll tell you off air.
We can't say it on here.
We can't say it on air for sure. You know what? Let's move on.
Yeah.
All right. Speaking of, so AFC North, obviously with the Hard Knocks coming out, and we'll get the next episode coming in next week by week. But back to the AFC North, Scots, in your Brownies with the man, Jameis Winston. They played on Monday night against the Broncos in what was an absolute shootout. And Jameis Winston simultaneously played his best game ever and his worst game ever. I don't know how he has the ability to have such a complete human experience as a quarterback and have just the full range of emotions and performance. How do you feel right now, Scott, after that loss?
Dude, having him behind the center is actually adding a bit of excitement to an organization that has had an abysmal year. So give me all of Jameis Winston and talk about like the duality of man in one dude. Like literally you got 400 plus yards and a bunch of touchdowns plus a bunch of picks in the same game, and not even just pick sixes, and he's praying to the Lord to relieve him and deliver him from these pick sixes. And it's like, dude, come on. Like he's a genius behind the mic and a genius behind center. You just get entertainment, pure entertainment with Jameis Winston. I'm for it.
Dude,
what's great about that line is that it throws away all responsibility of himself. It's like, it has nothing to do with my decision making. It's this is something way beyond my control.
Absolutely genius marketing and self-branding. Here is
that's
the
what he
clip.
wrote down when they go and watch film. That's what he writes down in his binder.
That's correct.
There's no tweak on the technique. It's this line.
It's just this line. It's genius. All right, here we go. I'm going to play it real quick.
I know I'm better than this. I know I'm just praying for the Lord to deliver me from pick sixes. I know I'm better than this.
This dude is first team All Pro, possibly first ballot Hall of Famer when it comes to being at the mic and at the podium. Like, there is not a player in the NFL that is as entertaining and is kind of endearing and sweet as Jameis Winston. Is there?
I think the only person that may come close, at least within the past few years, is Jair Alexander up in Green Bay. And just like anytime he gets on a mic, boy, you don't know what's coming through. But dude, going to this, like my brain broke.
Well, maybe the Lord will deliver you from your brain.
deliver me from this mini stroke.
What do you think about this comparison? Jameis Winston is the Forrest Gump of the NFL. Okay, from Alabama. Okay, crazy life story, crazy origin story.
Whoa.
He's a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get, how he's going to play, what's coming out of his mouth, which brings me to my next point.
Okay, here we go.
I don't know if this is the time for this, but this is kind of where on it.
Yep. Oh,
okay.
What is this?
Jameis Winston running like Forrest Gump, and he has all these followers. His charisma, okay, is that of Forrest Gump. His endearing qualities, the way he garners attention and inspires people. Huh?
That is fantastic. Jameis
Beautiful,
Winston
Mikey.
is Forrest Gump. He is. He's a box of chocolates. You never know what you're gonna get. Look at this.
Talk about NFL films. My idea here is Hey, NFL Films, great that you expanded it to, hey, 4 teams at once, right? That's awesome. You did the front office stuff. Absolute dumpster fire for the Giants. Probably never going to happen again. But I think the next iteration is to mic up one dude for an entire season. And that man should be Jameis Winston.
Dude.
I would put all my money, I would put my life savings to get them to do this, which is not much. I got a $10 budget for this. So double it.
And all his money on his set. So his life savings is depleted.
Yeah. So dude, like get him mic'd up, get him doing an entire season by himself. If you have to use the cutting room floor footage from this season, do it. Just do it.
Absolutely. Scott, will you pop this up here for me? This is just the Monday Night Football graphic. And you just see kind of the juxtaposition of Jameis Winston and Bo Nix. Bo Nix on the right-hand side for our audio audience. Bo Nix on the right-hand side being super serious, no smile, tough guy look on his face, tossing the ball around. Jameis Winston on the left-hand side, he is just goofing around with the ball. He's got his tongue out of his mouth. He's spinning around. He's smiling. He's having a good time. And this just kind of shows the two different personalities. Now, I will say, Bo Nix did lead his team to a victory, though. I mean, we're giving Jameis all these props, but he did lose.
Dude, yeah. But it's like Buzz Lightyear and flying. He lost with style. That's the beauty of it. Like,
beautiful.
Dude, whoa, that was incredible. Oh my gosh.
The crazy thing about this is you're looking at 2 quarterbacks here, right, that have been coached by Sean Payton. And I would just love to get in the head of Sean Payton and understand, or at least hear from his mouth, what the experience is like between having Jameis behind center and having Bo Nix behind center. Because I got a sense that it is as wildly different as these 2 poses right here.
Dude, I can't imagine 2 different personalities for a coach to have to lead at the quarterback position. Dude, going back to what you were saying, like, of miking up Jameis and getting him on some more media stuff or on a show. Like, think about these NFL players that are getting into media after playing, the Kelsey brothers, Travis and Jason, and like, they do a great job, but they're not nearly as entertaining as Jameis Winston. Like, this dude is such a great personality. I would be so thrilled to watch a show or a podcast that he is hosting when he's done playing.
Oh yeah, please mic him up. And I don't know if you saw the clip of him at the drive-thru. I think it was a Swenson's drive-thru, and he was just so stoked that he got the tray connected to his car window and everything. And if you haven't seen it, we need to pull it up or try to find it, because it's awesome. It's Jameis to a T.
What is Swenson's?
Dude, it's it's a local hamburger spot in Akron, in the greater like Cleveland area. So like LeBron has always talked about it. It's just like one of those local joints. I mean, it's a small chain, but infamous, essentially. No, not infamous, because it's good. It's famous.
Notorious.
Notorious. Hey, I think I have the clip, Scott. If you will throw this up, por favor.
You can be on the window?
On the window.
What? Oh my gosh. So we get to keep this tray on our window.
It can be our secret.
Okay. One thing that we did was we wanted to try the Ohio cherry soda.
Yeah.
And we would like to try the California grape soda. Okay. This is the coolest thing ever. Like, I ain't never seen no tray that just stick on your window.
And they bring it to your car.
That's what I'm saying. They bring the tray to your car and they put it on your window.
What a guy. That's actually really, really cool. That's great service right there, too. Swenson?
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I gotta make sure I can't see because the screen is so small. I mean, that's downfall of my new set. But at the same time, like, dude, going back to the the Kelsey brothers.
Sure.
They have come a long way, right? Obviously, they got that $100 million deal with ESPN, with their New Heights podcast and everything like that. But I don't know if many people remember Travis. I don't know, probably about a decade ago, maybe a little sooner. But he had that dating show on like VH1 or whatever, or maybe MTV, some knockoff of MTV. Boy, he's come a long way.
Dude, wasn't he like, it was like he dated one girl or woman from every state in the US?
Yeah, it was something like that. It was a Travis Kelce version of The Bachelor. It was so odd. So he has come a long way. Let's put it that way.
Right. He has come a long way. And guys, hey, I know we're just getting started, but we're next on the $100 million podcast deal. Okay. Hey, Yeah, Mike, didn't you hear?
Oh my
Mikey,
God.
you'll get some
great
cash for
news.
this set. Maybe you'll
I
get
have
a
to make a
$15
call.
budget.
First thing I'm doing is redoing this whole set. I'm gonna blow out that wall. I'm blowing out that wall.
Put in more doors.
More closet doors. All right, so there we go. All right, that's so we don't have to hammer on that Monday night game, Scott, because I know it's probably a tough spot with Jameis throwing those 2 pick sixes. They were in position to win though, with like 2 minutes left. And so, do you want to talk about it a little bit, or are you okay?
Look, I mean, I got the season's a wash, so any sort of entertainment is a plus here. And look, we were in the game, we battled it out, and Jameis had the most Jameis game of all time, right? Yes. And we all remember I'll say this one is infamous, his infamous season of 30 tuds and 30 interceptions. Like, we got Jameis Winston on prime time doing what Jameis Winston does best. True. Just representing the duality of man and the duality of an NFL player, the good and the very ugly. And it's beautiful. Take it as it is.
Take it as and what is the point of the NFL actually when it comes down to it? The bottom line, the NFL is entertainment. And Jameis Winston is the most entertaining player in the league. Therefore, Jameis Winston is actually the MVP of the NFL. Stamp it right here, okay?
Oh, ipso facto.
Ipso facto. I know we talked MVP on Monday. This is my new take because it's all about entertainment. Speaking of MVP, a former real MVP, right? I'm just obliterating the transitions today. Have you ever seen somebody have such smooth transitions?
I'm so proud of you. This is Case, the English teacher from Jesuit High School, will be so proud of your transition sentences.
Thank you. I'm transitioning. So, all right. No, not like that. Not like that. Okay. Will you pop this up, please, Scott? We talked on Monday a lot about the Trevor Lawrence situation with the slide and Al-Shair coming in, hitting him. We have since learned he's been suspended for 3 games. And a lot of the talk around this subject was about quarterbacks kind of fake sliding or defenders being put in really difficult positions. What can you do? And here is a clip of Mahomes taking off on the run, and clearly a defender on the Detroit Lions thinking that Mahomes is going to slide, and he runs right past him. Mahomes subsequently continues on for a couple more yards. I do have an opinion on this, but I want to get yours first. What are your thoughts here?
Yeah, no, I love it. You go first so I can piggyback off of you. So classic.
Oh, you want me to go first? No, you want me to go first? Let me tell you.
I got this.
Let me tell you what. Okay, hold on.
Now you're going to fight for it.
Now I'll go first. Everyone wants to say he's fake sliding here. Mahomes is not fake sliding here. He is just that clunky and awkward when he moves that it looks like he's trying to slide. He's trying to cut, bro. I 100% believe that. I don't think he's trying to slide. Thoughts?
I would have to say, yeah. Have you ever seen his hip popping pause as he walks? Like,
yes.
It is. There's some validity to that statement. I would have to say he's an interesting fluid motion kind of dude. But this goes back to like what I was saying last episode is like, I can commiserate with the defense here because what are you supposed to do in a situation like this? You're between a rock and a hard place, and it's tough because your livelihood and your career is on the line. So like you're making a business decision in real time while you're trying to play football, which is nuts to say. So it's like the rules have put defenders in this awkward position. Obviously, I don't think the NFL cares so much about it in that sense because it benefits the offense and ultimately ends up probably in more points and so on and so forth. But like they do have a problem on their hands, and I'm sure they're aware of it. But like they have a problem on their hands because it's degrading the defensive side of the ball, and it's putting guys in awkward positions. And indecision actually probably makes you more susceptible to injury, regardless of them hitting the guy or not. So like, I don't know. I think this is a tough one because quarterbacks are also pushing the envelope to see like, oh, when do I start sliding? How go before, this becomes dangerous for me, or I need to get that first down. So like, I don't know. It's putting defenders in a very precarious situation.
Right. I like what you said right there, that the indecision is actually makes players more susceptible to injury. Like my most recent injury that I got, like in my final year playing, Mike, when you were out here, when I tore my MCL for the second time.
That was so funny.
But it was out of a moment. hilarious day. Who was crying and crying and crying. Remember that?
Yeah.
You remember that?
Oh my gosh.
But
Pathetic.
it was a moment of indecision. Like there was a ball on the ground, somebody had fumbled it, and I was, half a second delay in trying to decide, is it worth it if I dive on it right now? Half a second, realistically, probably a tenth of a second. Slight delay right there, slight indecision. Boom, tore my knee. My ligament just exploded based off that indecision.
Oh, tell me what you think. Tell me what you think about this, because you obviously lived that moment, and we've all experienced the ball on the ground. Like, what do you do? Coaches are always like, dive on it, go get ball, like see ball, get ball, like regardless of what it is, like reckless abandon to your body. But even if you dove head first into that, like you're putting your head at risk, your neck at risk, your shoulders, like popping labrums, tearing labrums, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
My thought here, and I know I always go back to this sport, which are the basic roots of football and where it originated from, rugby, you kick that ball. You kick that ball and then you go get it. You pop it up onto the ground and you start incorporating those skills into your game, and you will be so invaluable to a football team.
Scott, you're going to get a penalty. It's illegal.
No,
What if you
dude.
make it look like an accident, like you're reaching down and you just accidentally kick the ball?
Okay, but we're getting then into a point of like, is this really worth the effort? And is this actually going to be more beneficial if you put on a whole play performance of, I accidentally kicked the ball instead of just picking it up?
Yeah, no. But you don't have to put it on. Like you make the decision. You kick it, you pop it up, and it's part of the gameplay.
So Scott, he went to the Yale School of Drama where he wants to put on his performance.
Double major, drama and football.
Drama poli
Coach, I
sci.
didn't get the script for today's game.
Yeah. Hey, don't say that, Mike, because people are then going to think that, everyone loves that conversation of NFL scripted, bro.
Oh yeah,
that's the dumbest thing.
And
ever.
everybody's going to
on the other hand, is scripted.
Whoa.
Everybody's going to highlight this too, because we just showed Pat Mahomes, and he's the biggest culprit, or the target on that narrative, right? So like the refs are always helping him out and doing stuff like this, and then now you got the defense so befuddled that he's just gaining an extra 5 yards because they don't know what to do.
Befuddled is a beautiful word.
I was going to say,
have a segment
Mike.
that's conspiracy segment, weekly conspiracies.
Ooh.
Okay.
I could lead it.
Yeah, you should. Go get a tinfoil hat right there next to your closet. Befuddled.
I actually have one. Usually.
You got to protect from the Wi-Fi waves of your brain. Befuddled. That's a great word, Scott. That is very good. But back to enough of this drama talk. Back to the sliding situation. So Tom Brady was on the Colin Cowherd show. Colin Cowherd, former guy who worked in Oregon. He's a Pacific Northwesterner, of course, like us. So shout out to that. Will you pop this up? Hold on. So this is 90 seconds here. We're going to pop up what Tom Brady has to say. Now, keep in mind that his answer to this question was like quite a bit longer, and I did slice this up a little bit just to kind of take out the air. So I am manipulating Tom Brady's answer here, but these are his words on the subject.
Over time, the NFL has obviously done a lot of things to, protect players and player health and safety. It's been on and on and on. Nobody wants to see anybody get hurt, but it is also the reality of a very physical sport that we play.
Yeah.
There's an aspect to me that I think the quarterbacks and certainly the quarterbacks need to take better care of themselves. I see Josh Allen running a lot. I see Lamar Jackson running a lot. And when you do that, I don't think the onus of protecting an offensive quarterback who's running should be on a defensive player. I don't think that's really fair to the defense. The aspect, again, for a play caller, there's more design runs for quarterbacks ever now than in the history of the NFL. So are we really trying to protect quarterbacks? Because if you are trying to do it through the rules, then why are the offensive coordinators not protecting their quarterbacks by keeping them in the pocket and not designing as many quarterback runs? So, maybe they fine or penalize a quarterback for sliding late, and say, look, if we don't want these hits to take place, we've got to penalize the offense and the defense rather than just penalize a defensive player for every single play that happens when there's a hit on a quarterback.
Interesting.
Right. So that's Tommy right there. I would say a little bit of victim blaming, perhaps.
I like that take a lot.
No, I love that
responsibility on both ends, just a little bit. I think that's
How are you?
I and Tom always see eye to eye.
I'm not saying I totally agree or disagree, but how are you going to penalize a quarterback for a late slide, like that, you have to know like his intentions then, don't you, as the referee?
Fair. I think that's the one area of his statement right here that you can poke a hole through. Like, that's the one that doesn't really make all that much sense. But him pointing out the fact that, like, hey, okay, the NFL is penalizing defenses one side of the ball while also the offense is increasing the amount of times that they're running and outside the pocket and beyond the line of scrimmage. I think it's a vastly different conversation. And, like, obviously everybody's going to point to Tom Brady and be like, oh, this is the dude that's talking about quarterback protection, when literally the game was changed because he tore his ACL. I forgot what year it was, but he tore his ACL while in the pocket. Fair enough. You can make that argument. But I would also say that running outside the pocket and crossing the line of scrimmage as a runner, as a football player with the ball in hand, changes the game. You're no longer a quarterback. You are a football player, a ball carrier that is no different than anybody else carrying the ball on the field. And you are just as susceptible to getting laid out and tackled as anybody else. So I think there's some credence in what he's saying. And, like, offenses and offensive coordinators, they're just utilizing and taking advantage of the rules that are at their disposal right now. And I think the NFL needs to figure this out really quickly, because, one, if they're hyper concerned about health and safety of their players, like, this would be an absolutely paramount thing to accomplish and take care of. Because as you said in last episode, Nick, QBs, we need our starting QBs for the quality of gameplay to stay as high as it is and interest to stay as high as it is. Because if you start getting second, third string dudes coming in because there's injury to the quarterback, that's a problem for the league. That's a problem for the optics. That's a problem for gameplay at large. But, like, ultimately, the offensive coordinators are going to utilize what they can to their advantage. And it's the rule right now. And if you have one player that's protected more so than anybody else, let's lean into that, because then you're going to get yardage, and the potential for them to get a Trevor Lawrence type injury is still relatively low in terms of how many times people have run out of the pocket and slid. But I don't know. A lot of points he was making were actually quite sound. And I love the old school mentality here. And this is coming from a guy who literally tore his ACL during this, got absolutely lit up so many times. Go look at his highlights. Like, he's actually speaking from experience, and the best of experience.
He got obliterated a couple times, but I said, of course, Tom Brady is fine with quarterbacks getting laid out and destroyed, because he owes his entire career and his starting of his career to Drew Bledsoe just getting absolutely obliterated. So he's fine with it. he's totally okay with quarterbacks just getting chopped up. No, there is a lot of legitimacy there to what he is saying. And I think, like, okay, but if we're talking in specific, like, we were talking a little bit more generally there, Scott, you were, but then back to specifically with that incident with Lawrence and Aziz, that did not happen, like, in a vacuum. Like, there were other circumstances around it, his previous offenses, and then also his behavior right afterward, because he didn't make it seem right afterward like, oh shoot, that was totally an accident, I'm sorry, like, reach down to Trevor and try and kind of tend to him right there. Because, Mike, do you remember when I had that brutal, horrible face mask out here in Germany where I ripped the quarterback's head off? Or the
it's in the promo. You put it
in the promo, right?
Yeah,
you know why I didn't
premeditated. The classification should be premeditated and emotionally driven.
Yeah. Right, it was. Now, but why did I not get ejected or anything? Because right afterward, Scott, will you make me big here? I indicated that was an accident and that I was sorry, which Aziz did not do at all. He just started a fight right after the whole thing. And so that's my problem, I think, is kind of the hit itself.
That means nothing, dude. That means nothing. Talk about going to the school of drama. Like, that was made up drama and apology. Like, you took him down and you did it. Like, it occurred. So, like, the reaction afterward is kind of superfluous. So
no,
like,
the point of the reaction is that, okay, I got the 15-yard penalty, which I deserved, and Aziz deserved his penalty there. But I think the ejection and the additional punishment that I avoided by responding in a smarter way, I think that has some credence. Would you say?
To a certain extent, yeah, but it still stands that it occurred, the penalty occurred. I think, like, I'm losing the thread here of the argument, because I don't think what happens afterward is what matters most. I think
okay, here's what I'm trying to say. Does the intention matter, or is it just the actual physical hit? Because Aziz's behavior afterward and surrounding indicated that his intention was to do that to Trevor Lawrence and to
I agree with
hit
that.
him
You got to
late.
show some remorse right after if it was
Remorse is the
Right.
word. Good, Mike.
But
That's remorse.
I guess in coming to the defense and just playing devil's advocate, I don't think he had time enough to react remorsefully. Like he literally just got on his knees and was all of a sudden shoved into the turf. So like in immediately going into fight mode after that happened. So you have to give him some leeway there where he didn't have the ability to turn around and see, oh, Trevor is literally fence posting right now because I hit him. He just his immediate reaction was up, looking at ref, flag was coming. It's just like, and then bop into the ground. So like, I don't know.
Fair.
I think this situation's a little different.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair. But you know what would have helped his case is after he got leveled by Ingram is to, kind of not fight back and not go and rip people's helmets off.
Dude, that's not gonna. That's not gonna happen. If
Well,
somebody did that to you, you would break their neck like you did that quarterback.
You don't know me. You don't know my behavior. You don't know my intention. You don't know me.
I know the Italian fire.
It's called passion. All right, and it's in our blood. So, all right, it's interesting. I don't know. This conversation is gonna be ongoing because this has obviously sparked a huge debate and there's a lot of controversy. And again, what I'm saying, I don't know. I'm kind of back and forth on this situation because I do think the hit isolated in itself was like, but the things surrounding it made me push over to be like way more on Trevor Lawrence's side. So we'll see how this continues.
You said this in last episode too. It matters. I think previous situations, which actually I went back and looked at it. And the fines that he had received, I wouldn't say were as egregious as this. It wasn't like Vontaze Burfict. I made that comparison. Vontaze Burfict is actually his priors were far worse than what
he was great.
Like he was off the deep end. So that's a different example. But like this one, if you have priors, you take it into account. It's case by case situation. And as Mike Tomlin says, situations are situational, and this one was different than many others.
All right, so that's what we got in the NFL right now. Big news, big drama coming out of the college ranks because, dude, check this out. We got the new rankings for the CFP, and there are so many people that are upset, some squads that are upset, a lot of drama and controversy surrounding this. The new top 25 right here. Alabama is big in the conversation. But I think a huge indicator or a huge issue, let me pop up right here the actual bracket. One moment, please. So here is the bracket. Can you guys see that? Is that big enough?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Command plus. How's that? Okay. So here is the bracket right now. And as everything lies, Boise State, Oregon, SMU, and Texas would have first round buys. I think people are okay with Oregon and Texas having first round buys. But this system that we have created, giving a team like Boise State and a team like SMU first round buys, is pretty preposterous. In my opinion. What do you think?
I get it. I get it why optically this is like a little bit jarring to see Boise State and SMU there. But to be frank, SMU is atop the ACC, which is one of the Power Fives.
Well, sorry to cut you off, Scott, but that's issue right there of should the conference champions get these auto bids and get the first round bye?
Should is a tough one to answer, because there's so much money involved. It's almost as though they have to because they've generated so much and they can generate so much for the college football playoffs. So should they, in terms of the quality and the competition on the field? Probably not. But if we don't do that, there will be years where it will literally be 8 teams in the SEC in this tournament. And no one really wants to see that because ultimately that's going to further the issue of what NIL is and what we're seeing coming down the pipe, and all this realignment is what will essentially be an SEC, a massive SEC conference, because more people are going to start joining it. And that's essentially going to become college football at large. So this is a way to kind of hedge against that. But to what degree that hurts the competition? That's the real question. So seeing an SMU, yes, is jarring, but technically they are at the top of the ACC and they may be playing better than a Clemson who has a shot at coming in if they end up upsetting SMU. And that's the real question is like, if Clemson wins the ACC championship, do you also let SMU, who would be a 2-loss team who lost in the conference championship and has a very good record, do you let them in alongside a Clemson, ACC winning Clemson? So like, and who falls out? The biggest indicator, and everybody's talking about this, is Alabama, dude. Why?
Yeah.
Why? They're not the same, and they're a 3-loss team. You can't keep doing this.
Dude, well, that's the thing, and that's kind of the big controversy is this Alabama situation. 3 losses, a 9-3. And the other thing is there are multiple SEC teams that are 3-loss teams. Yeah. The big thing is, okay, the brand of Alabama. However, let me play devil's advocate. So I think logically we know, like, it's a little bit ridiculous that Alabama keeps getting shoved back in there, right? Yeah. However, why did they do this college football playoff? Of course, for us fans, we think because it's the purity and it's gonna give more teams the opportunity of the meritocracy of winning the national championship. That's what we think. Why'd they really do it? More high-profile money games. It all comes down to money. Alabama, one of the biggest college football brands of all time, massive fan base, huge money maker. And if you're thinking about this just in terms of business and finances and marketing, they would be very, very smart to have Alabama in this college football playoff. So I don't know if this is really coming into play at all, maybe subconsciously, maybe just because of the history of Alabama. What are your thoughts on that? And you agree that actually would be good for the playoff, whether they're deserving or not?
Alabama's the Bronny James of the playoff.
Clip it.
Clipped.
Yeah, that's perfect. That's what I'm getting a sense, at least this year, right? So like you can make, I think Alabama fans have a leg to stand on in many other years where may have been left out of the CFP, when it was 4 teams and stuff like that. But when we're talking about 12, like the product on the field, everybody knows it, everybody feels it. And if Nick, I dropped in this link here to a Lane Kiffin tweet recently. If you could pull that up, it's the SEC 3-loss team deserving. Like the big question mark is like, you look at the different teams in the SEC who are 3 losses, and you look at like the quality of 1, their wins, and 2, their losses, and the disparity of those losses and who they were playing and so on and so forth. So like diving into this, I want to pull this up.
Yeah, it's up right now.
It's a lot of text, so we'll have to command plus that, baby. But Lane Kiffin's just diving into the explanation of like, hey, this is real, dude. Like looking at the point differential in the losses, looking at the point differential in the wins and the opponents that were both the wins and the losses. And
I'm over here having the fight of my life trying to make this text bigger.
All right. People who are viewing, go ahead and command plus it yourself. So anyway, it's just like it actually matters, dude. Like who you lost to. And you were bringing this up. Like there is a quality loss factor in this. And I think Ole Miss has a leg to stand on here versus an Alabama. And you talk about, Alabama's a bigger name, maybe. But I think the SEC football is big enough. And like the whole state of Mississippi, outside of those who are following Mississippi State, want to see Ole Miss in the championship. And we look at population and fandom, like pretty sure it's equivalent. Alabama, Ole Miss, the energy is pretty equivalent. Like you got psycho SEC fans who want to see their team in there. And like, I may be a little biased because my uncle is part of the Ole Miss crew over there, but at the same time, at the same time, he like the university and the football team has put on a great show of football. And I think they're far more deserving in terms of the product on the field than say Alabama that just brings a name.
Yeah. I mean, the Ole Miss, Alabama, South Carolina conversation is super interesting. Like, I don't know, man. I mean, it's kind of like a rock, paper, scissors sort of situation. It's like, X beat Y, Y beat Z, Z beat X. It's like, it's all kind of mismatched, and it's tough to put a finger on which team is really, really deserving. And I think because there's not such a clarity for the committee, that they are just defaulting to, it's tough. Yeah. Let's just go Alabama, because that's the easiest choice, I think, in a situation like this.
Yeah, they're resting on their laurels. Like Alabama has been more consistent over the past 2 decades. Like, let's just go with them. But again, I go back to the point. Alabama is not the same Alabama as they have been under Nick Saban. Like
Throw that-
Kalen DeBoer, great coach, awesome coach, did a great job at Washington and everywhere else he's been. But like this is them. They're trying to rationalize having a 3-loss Alabama team in due to like post success, and it's just not hitting this year.
For the people who are just listening, I just threw up a hilarious meme of the guy Charlie from what is that? Always Sunny in Philadelphia. You guys know the meme of him with all the papers on the bulletin board, and the text says the College Football Playoff Committee in 2031 trying to justify putting 5-7 Alabama in the playoff.
They did really well in 2009.
I think that represents it pretty well. I don't know, dude, but there's something about this. I know Alabama just had that terrible loss to Oklahoma, which shouldn't happen and quite embarrassing. But deep down, I still think that Alabama would smack an SMU, would smack a Boise State, and I think like whether they deserve it or not of the current criteria of the college football playoff that we have here in the 12-team playoff in 2024, whether they deserve it or not, I do think it would be more entertaining with them in it.
Yeah, sure. But going along that thought thread and that argumentation, I would say slotting in Ole Miss over an SMU would be more beneficial versus just like an I think if we're going in that route, like, yes, let's have Ole Miss and Alabama, and that's probably a better competitive game and teams on the field. So I don't know. It's like, talk about being between a rock and a hard place. Like the committee has a tough go here trying to figure out how to approach this year in and year out. And it's only going to get harder as the parity of the league starts separating. And obviously there's parity in the SEC now that hasn't necessarily existed over the past two decades.
Right.
But it seems like outside of the Big Ten, everybody else is kind of fallen by the wayside. And even looking at the Big 12, the fact that they don't have it dominating is
right.
Pretty wild to see.
The fact that the top team in the Big 12 right now is like ranked like 15 or 16th, Arizona State. They're just it's a little bit weird. I mean, we are in the first year of this kind of new era, the combination of all this NIL happening and then the college football expanded playoff. Honestly, dude, when I was looking at all this, we need to have an even bigger playoff. It needs to be like 24 teams. It needs to be closer to March Madness because there are too many teams that have a case. And 12 is it's a little bit arbitrary. It's like, hey, if we're going to go 12, let's go 24. And then actually wouldn't that be awesome if we had a little underdog Cinderella story of like the 21st ranked team in college football making their way to the semifinal? How cool would that be? And then it is just completely based on merit. I mean, I know you have to get the benefit of being ranked in the top 25, but then once you're in that bracket, it's all up to you, man. And then all of us guys like trying to talk and say this team deserves it, this team or whatnot. It's just down to the football field.
Oh, we'll lose our real lucrative jobs here, man. Like if they do that.
True, dude. True. Never mind.
No, I like this idea. We should expand it to 24. I'm just happy that we bumped it to 12 because sitting at 4 for as long as we did was pretty psycho. And I don't understand why it didn't happen sooner because they saw how much money they were raking in from just 4. Like how much more can you get from 24 if you're really thinking about it from a monetary standpoint, which they are. And like to your point earlier with Alabama, we're not gonna get in this back and forth of like, oh, this fan base would generate this much revenue in this place and that place if they were to continue to win. We would just have them in there and they could do it year in and year out.
Dude, I mean, I didn't study at Yale, but I also think that 24 is bigger than 12, and so there would be more.
That's
more
a good
money.
take. Well, my opinion is 24 is a bigger number. Also, and bigger number means more money.
Oh, hear me out, Mike. 100 team playoff, right? Okay, so much money. All right. Man.
It would be really fun to be able to fill out brackets for college football playoff like March Madness.
Oh yeah,
that would be awesome.
Yeah. It's like this is a no-brainer, and I have to say, like, give them the benefit of the doubt. They're just trying to figure this out logistically first, because we all know football is a vastly different sport, and you can't play it as quickly and as frequently as you can basketball or anything else because you need the recovery time. And
you need the week
to decrease potential injury, travel, so on and so forth. So, like, I think this is just a test to figure it out logistically, they would probably open it up to 64 if they really wanted to. Just have D1 AA and D1 single A play each other.
Settle down. If I see Georgetown in there sneaking into the 64 team college football playoff, I'm gonna be pumped. All right. There we have it. There is a little, you know what? Let's save this. Let's save this for another episode. I thought it was kind of interesting. Andrew Luck getting hired as the GM of Stanford football, but we do have to do Mikey's musings, and we're getting up close to an hour here. So let's go, Mike. This is your time to shine.
We have GMs for college football.
Yeah, that's what I was alluding to with my uncle down at Ole Miss. So like they're building out front offices for universities, specifically in the SEC. Like,
is that because of the NIL stuff now?
Yeah, so like they're functioning much more like professional leagues and professional organizations, so that they can scout talent far more intricately than they had been prior to, and they can find ways to move pieces around to increase their chances of winning on the field. So it's really interesting, and this is cool. Just sorry, Nick, I know you want to move on.
But really I guess cool. We will talk about it.
This is really cool.
Sorry, serious, can't help it.
That's Mikey's fault. He asked the first
time.
Yeah. No. To think about this further, it's like it is interesting from a business standpoint because never before has the NFL had an opportunity to test talent out at the GM level before just giving them the job, one of the 32. Yeah. So this is creating a pool of a way to develop people to scout talent more intricately and better to open up opportunities for them to potentially do it in the NFL. And as we all know, the NFL is going to expand to Europe at some point in time. So there's going to be more openings. There are going to be more international opportunities. So
NFL,
all those job applications just showing their fantasy football records.
Our brother, Anthony Alfieri is going to become a GM for Division I college based on his fantasy football records. No, I think it's actually, that's a great point, because like what are the jobs that typical NFL GMs have leading up to becoming a GM for the first time? Like, I don't even know. Scott, do you know?
You work your way up. You work your way up through the organization. So generally the route is, and it's similar to the coaching tree, right? So you start at the bottom, right? You're a scout, you're a regional scout, then a collegiate scout, then you may jump over to pro personnel, and then you're learning the ropes there, but you start off at the bottom of each of those rungs, and then you work your way up, and then eventually you become, head of player personnel, whether it be collegiate or pro, and then you're secondhand man to the GM, and then from there, that's usually when you get your opportunities. Like, you make a name for yourself when you're head of personnel on a roster or a team, an organization, and then that's when people get to know you, organizations get to know your name and your product. So it's really difficult. It's a wild ladder because there are only 32 teams.
Yeah. So it's like that'll actually be really interesting. More Division I teams having GMs. That's just creating, I mean, you need it now because these are essentially professional organizations. They're semi-pro teams. Yeah.
We should have Andy. I was talking to Andy yesterday. They had all their exit meetings for Oregon State, and he was talking about how all the guys are getting paid and how that works, and what the offers are, the negotiations with the players and the NIL director for Oregon State. We should have him on, and he can talk about it.
Let's have Andy on next week because they just finished up their season. They just played Boise State and Ashton Johnson, and he has all that. So we should have Andy next week.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay.
All right, Mike.
You have time for one musing.
Okay.
One muse.
Okay. All right. Here's more of a philosophical question about football and sports in general, but more so football. Does football reveal character or develop it?
Ooh. That is like kind of the age-old question. Does football develop character or reveal it? I actually think it's a combination of both. I think when you start, you can learn things about yourself when you're starting playing football, kind of as a young kid, but you can also think there are certain skills that you kind of can't develop until you get on a team or on a football field or face some of these adversity, whether they be physical, mental, or emotional. You know, you love the game so much and you're placed at second string. You know, this happened to me at Jesuit in freshman year, not even second string. I was like fourth string, but this emotional, it sucked. This emotional hardship, I had never faced anything like this before. And so I think it was a combination of like, that's that helped develop a little bit of a emotional callus there, and kind of the idea that, hey, if you run into adversity like that, you got to just continue and push through it. So I think there's that point of it, but then also it does reveal character, because there are certain things I'm not sure that we can necessarily learn. There's certain things that are just kind of innate or genetic within us. Like when shit hits the fan and everything's going terribly, are you going to rise to the occasion, or are you going to bitch out? And so I think in those types of situations, football does reveal character. Kind of a cop-out answer. I know how to sit on a fence.
That's what I was going to say.
A little bit of both. What? Here we go.
The trick is to lay face down with the post in your mouth.
Post in your mouth. Tell me I'm wrong, Scott.
No. I would say it is a cop-out answer. Yes, but you're not wrong. You're not wrong, because the way I would answer this is like, I think football is the perfect vehicle to do both. It's the perfect scenario to place yourself into, to find out who you truly are, in a civilian type way or an athlete type way. Like, obviously you have the military, and if you go through that sort of training, you find out who you are in a far more visceral, deeper level, in my opinion. But for the layman, football is probably the next best thing you can do for yourself in your character development, your personal development. Because yes, Nick, you do have that innate, call it characteristic set, but you also need to develop it and sharpen it and intensify it in certain degrees and decrease it in others. So like, you find out how well you play with others by decreasing your pride, your ego, and doing your job that you're asked to do, whether that be the starting quarterback or, the third team, scout team safety, shout out Daniel Jones. So like, it's one of those things where like, you find out who you are in the moment. Cause you can always have these daydreams and figuring out like, oh, this is who I am. If I was put in this scenario, I would do X, Y, Z. I would do this. Right. I would do that. I would do it better than him or her, and so on and so forth. But you don't really know until you're in that situation what you will actually do. And I think football is the best way to find out, specifically for, only men, because that's who plays it. But like, it's the best way for young men to develop courage, strength, battling through adversity, figuring out how to work on a team together and doing your job and finding out where it is that you fit and doing it to the best of your ability. So like, I don't know if that even answers your question, but it's like, it's the best of all worlds here.
It's a little bit of combination of both. By the way, there actually is. We have no women's football in the United States. There's so much women's football here in Germany. Actually, the local team here, the Schwäbisch Hall Unicorns women, coached by Mike Gentili, our old teammate. They won the national championship. So
they won.
They won. Yeah, it was really cool.
Good job.
And then they fired him after for winning the championship. I'll tell you more about that.
Don't do that.
That's typical Unicorns fashion.
There you go. Stick with it.
You're fired.
You won, and we don't like that. So, all right, there we go. Those are good musings, Mike. I like that.
Great musings, Michael.
Do we have time for your guitar solo? Ooh, nope, not this time, Mike. Next time. For the people, we do have a good, exciting, I don't know if it's going to be good. We have a potentially good interview coming on Friday.
It's going to be good.
We'll see about that.
And chaotic.
It might be good. It's going to be chaotic, but we do have an interview coming for Friday, right, Scott?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I can't wait. Can't wait for this. Good friend of Mikey. Let's just put it that way. So prepare
unfortunately, Mikey and him are going to be really annoying. So me and Scott are going to have to try and just keep it on the guardrails.
Sure.
Keep it coherent. Sure. Right, Mike?
We pride ourselves on never being serious ever, and that's how we played football. And it worked. Right.
That's what we do on this podcast.
20% of the time, it works every time.
There we go. All right, guys, that's good. I think that's a good spot to end. So I'm gonna go have dinner. Thank you everybody for watching, and we will see you on Friday.
All right, peace.